Let's go to the next question. So what techniques do we use to feed chicks when they're born? We take a chick and feed it immediately after we find it. And the incubation room is separate from our hand rearing room. I go in there all the time. The workers go in there all the time. If a chick is hatched, that chick is brought to the hand rearing room and it is fed. Why do we feed it right away? Why do we feed it watery formula? Because the parents feed it in the nest immediately. Where stories arise that you only give them Pedialyte, or you only give them water, or you give them anything else, I don't know where those originated from, and they are really detrimental to the chick. We need to get that chick. Those cells are multiplying. We need him to start growing as quickly as possible. We start feeding it right away. We try to add some papaya seed to it, and we take ripe papaya, we grind it with a little bit of the pulp and the seeds, and we keep that in the refrigerator. And we add that to the formula because the papaya seeds deter bacterial growth naturally. They would be a food that parents would feed chicks in the wild, and the papaya is digested. So we add a little bit of this to the feeding. And then we feed the chick every 2 hours during the day. We don't, unless the chick is very tiny, it weighs 2 grams or less, we don't wake up in the middle of the night. The first feeding is at 7 in the morning, the last feeding is at 11 p.m., and we feed every 2 hours. If a chick, and I have to be very careful the information that I convey because I don't want people to abuse it. If a chick is slow in digesting, we look at papaya. We add more papaya. We may feed it only the papaya cream, which is the papaya pulp with the seeds ground up. If we see that a chick is growing, but growing slowly, we'll do a culture. We'll look and see if there's a bacteria there. Many times, many aviaries that I visit, I can look at a pair and say, that pair is breeding. That pair doesn't breed. And people say, how do you know? How can you be that good? I'm not that good. I just look. When pairs are incubating, they begin to eat their dry droppings. They go frantically, they clean their cage. And when they have chicks, they're even more assiduous in this because they're looking for a way to process the B vitamins. But in that process of looking for B vitamins, they're also inoculating the gut of the chick with some helpful bacteria. So if a chick is doing poorly, we've tried papaya, we've cultured, we don't find any bacteria, we will take a little bit of the droppings of a chick that is doing well, sibling. We'll feed that to it. We want to inoculate the gut with helpful bacteria. People say, well, I can do that with probiotics. Probiotics are species specific. A probiotic that you buy in the store, and we use them. We give them to them daily. You have to constantly give it to the birds because they don't live in the gut long term. It's not the same. Every species have their own gut flora. And what I'm trying to do is inoculate the gut with the same compound. We add fat to the formula. I believe that we should always start chicks off in a high-fat diet. Once they are beginning to pin feather, then we remove the fat. We use a normal hand-rearing formula in eclectus and cockatoos because they don't need all that fat. But we do leave the fat from macaws and conures and amazons. They need that. They need that fat for optimum growth. When you have inferior growth in a chick, that chick will be stunted. And that chick, when it comes time to breed, will take very long time to mature. We've done trials here with conures with many species where we use a high fat and a normal fat diet for hand rearing formula. And the chicks hand reared on a formula that was high in fat did a lot better, bred earlier, and produced fertile eggs twice as fast on a low fat hand rearing formula. So it's very important to remember that. Can you correct egg breaking? I believe you can. You can fix cases. One, by expanding the depth of the nest, shrinking the nest in width and depth, and making it much deeper. First step. The second step is giving them glass eggs. If they toss these eggs around and they realize they can't break them, they'll eventually desist. And finally, if that doesn't work, we take cleaning ammonia, regular cleaning ammonia. We'll take white chicken eggs. We drill a hole. We extract the contents. And we fill it up with ammonia and we cap it. And we give that pair a couple of eggs. Generally, when they have broken these eggs, they will stop. They'll stop breaking eggs. What features do I look for in an incubation, in an incubator? The number one condition is how easily can it be cleaned. If the incubator has parts that I can't clean, that's a problem. I like the Inca. I like the Inca because I can take the heating pad, disconnect it, and I can wash everything. I can disinfect everything. With my groom box, and the only reason that I have them is because I bought them long ago, it's very difficult to disinfect. I can't get into the motor. It becomes a huge task to clean them. With the Inca, I take off everything, and it's very easy. Very, very easy. Clean it, disinfect it. We use bleach and soap. We soap and water everything first, and then we wipe it down with the bleach water. Bleach becomes a gas, so if you leave it air dry, it dissipates. We clean, we have multiple incubators, and we're always cleaning them. We're always rotating the incubators and cleaning. Where should you place an incubator, and what external factors can come into play? We have a room that is solely dedicated to incubation. No traffic, nothing else. Vibrations. This will jar an egg. People bumping into the incubator. I had someone there recently that had an incubator on top of a desk. Every time he hit the desk, he bumped into it. He put the chair next to it. Every time he did that, he was jarring those eggs. Couldn't figure out why he wasn't hatching any eggs. Everything was perfect, except that. Always put your incubators in a separate room, and if you can, get a thick piece, very thick piece of styrofoam and put the incubator on top. The styrofoam will absorb many of the impacts. We want a room with a stable temperature. The ideal incubation temperature external to the incubator is 78 degrees. If it gets very hot, that incubator can't regulate itself. If it gets too cold, that incubator can't warm those eggs. So it's very important to keep it in a stable environment. If there is humidity, stabilize the humidity. The ideal incubation humidity is 48%. Hold on, please. Let's get to the next question. Incubation temperature and humidity does not affect the gender of the chicks. Keeping the incubator cooler or hotter will not produce more males or females. I don't know what happened. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, because it died. It died. So the incubation temperature and humidity will not affect the gender, but this is where really things get interesting. We are finding that we can affect gender by playing with the diet once the birds begin to lay eggs. We have blue-throated conures. We have the largest group of the species in the US, and in the US it is very rare. Species is very rare. Blue-throated conures have a tendency to produce mainly males worldwide. What we do is when they begin to lay, we go from a rich diet of pellets, vegetables, whole grain bread smeared in almond butter, and many other things. We put them on parakeet seed when they begin to lay, on a parakeet seed mix. What happens is that when the diet is very rich, birds will generate males, because males can fight with each other. Males can defend, and the strongest, most fittest males will be the next generation to breed. When things are rough, the diet becomes poor. In their mind, the survival of the species is at stake. So what do the females do? They generate more females to keep the species alive, because the more females, the more reproduction that will take place. It will give all of the males, good or bad, an opportunity to breed to keep the species alive. The original research was done by Cromwell Purchase using Spix's macaws. In a conversation that Cromwell and I had, we discussed it. We put it to trial with green cheeks, with dusky, with blue-throated conures, with yellow lord Amazons. It worked. So there are ways to manipulate the diet to produce the gender that you need.